Hey everyone, in this video we're going to talk about how to factor trinomials. So when I say trinomial, I just mean some sort of expression where there's three terms. We've got one term will be the x squared, the negative and positive signs separate terms, another term will be 2x, and another term will be 8. So I have three terms. So the first thing you do when you factor trinomials is you think, what is the coefficient on the x squared term? Well, on this case, isn't the coefficient on x squared just equal to 1? Yeah. And the second thing we think is, can we take out a greatest common factor? Well, we can't factor out an x because not every term has an x in it. We've got the numbers, the coefficients, 1, -2, and -8. We can't really do anything with those. If they were all like even numbers or multiples of 5 or something like that, we could factor out -5 or something and simplify it before we factor it. We can't do any of that here. That's okay. So what we're going to do is, after you've factored out whatever, you still do it the same method. We say P equals and S equals. Product is what the P stands for, and product just means the answer to a question with multiplication. So the things that we multiply are the coefficient on x squared, which is 1, times whatever the number is by itself that doesn't have any x associated with it. And the sign matters. So we've got -8, and 1 times -8 would just be -8. S stands for sum, which means the answer to a question with adding in it. And for sum, we just look at the coefficient on the term that's just x to the power of 1. So it's usually the middle term. You can write it differently in a different order and it would be the same thing. But it's almost always the middle term. In this case, it's -2. The sign matters. So we would think, what two numbers can we multiply together to get -8, and when we add the same numbers we get -2? Well, let's think of how we make -8. So -8 could be -1 times 8, +1 times -8, -2 times +4, or -4 times +2. Well, -1 plus 8, that doesn't equal 2. 1 plus -8 also doesn't equal 2. -2. -2 plus 4 doesn't equal -2, but -4 plus 2, that would equal -2. So we know that our two numbers are -4 and +2. It doesn't matter what order you write them down. If you want to write the +2 over here and the -4 over there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the question. So then what we do is break apart our middle term. -2x, isn't that the same as -4x plus 2x? When you collect like terms, that will just be -2x. And our x squared and our number haven't changed. So what we're going to do is look at the first two terms. X squared, -4x, what do they have in common? Well, they both have an x in them. So we'll pull that x out. X squared divided by x would just be x. -4x divided by x would be -4. I'll look at these two terms and say, what can I pull out of there? Well, they're both divisible. -8 and 2 are both divisible by 2. And so I'll pull out +2, and hopefully you will find that what's in this set of brackets and this set of brackets is exactly the same thing. If it's not, then you haven't factored out the right numbers out here. Maybe this should have been -2, maybe this should have been 3x. Something like that is just not quite right. So just go back, factor it out, try something different until you get two sets of things in the brackets that match. So then we've got x times x minus 4 plus 2 times x minus 4. They both have an x minus 4 in them, so let's factor that out. When we factor out x minus 4 from x times x minus 4, we're just left with x. And when we factor out x minus 4 from 2 times x minus 4, we're just left with +2. We'll just drop a set of brackets around that, and you're all done. That's it. And so let's do another example. Let's do x squared plus 10x plus 24. So this time, the only difference is that these are positive signs instead of negative. Doesn't change the way we do the question. So we do product equals sum equals product. The coefficient on x squared is 1 times the number 24. 1 times 24 would be positive 24. The sum, the coefficient on x, would be positive 10. So what two numbers do we multiply together to get 24 that also add to equal 10? I would think that's positive 6 and positive 4. So that tells us how to break apart the middle term. Isn't plus 6x plus 4x the same as plus 10x if we collected like terms? Yeah. And it doesn't matter if you write them the other order. If you write plus 4x plus 6x, it doesn't change anything. Just do whatever you want. Okay. So now we look at the first two terms. What do they have in common? X. And what's left over? X plus 6. What do these two terms have in common? Well, they're divisible by 4. Divisible by positive 4. When you divide by positive 4, you should get x plus 6. What's in this set of brackets and this set of brackets is the same, so that's good. Let's factor it out. When we get rid of the x plus 6, we're left with x. We get rid of the x plus 6 here, we're left with plus 4, and you just drop in a set of brackets around there, and you're all done. So we might as well do one more. This time the coefficient on x squared is not going to be equal to 1. But the good news is that doesn't change the way we do the question, that's what's good about factoring, is the same method, you can apply it to a whole bunch of different questions. You don't have to remember formulas, you just have to kind of know the method. So when we take the product, multiply the coefficient on x squared, and the number 3 times 1 is positive 3. The sum is positive 4. What number is the multiply to positive 3 and add to positive 4? Wouldn't positive 3 times positive 1 be positive 3? 3 plus 1 is 4. Yay, good times. So for x, we can say that that's really positive 3x plus 1x. And then the positive 1 and the 3x squared just comes along with us. We don't have to do anything yet. So now let's look at the first two terms. 3x squared plus 3x, what do they have in common? They both have a 3x in them. When we factor out the 3x, we'll just be left with x plus 3x divided by 3x will be 1. What do these two terms have in common? They just got a 1 in common. If I divide 1x divided by 1, I just get x. Positive 1 divided by positive 1 is just 1. What's in these set of brackets is exactly the same, so that's good. So let's factor that out. We get rid of that, we're left with 3x. Get rid of that, we're left with 1x. So that's your answer, x plus 1 times 3x plus 1. So I hope you found this helpful. Like I said in the beginning, I have videos on perfect squares and difference of squares, which we use the same method, but it's a little bit trickier. So you might want to check those out, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!